Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Rob Snow. I'm back, and today we're taking a show you. This is a Bones miniature. We're going to show you how to prep a Bones mini all the way from the package to getting the first layer of paint on it. So today, we're going to crack this guy open here. We'll try to do some of this on stream. You got to start by basing them, and one of the things that's really nice about the Bones miniatures is that it's not the case. You don't have to spray paint them or anything like that. So here we go. We're going to start with him. Now he's got just a little bit of a bend. You can see on his staff here, it's bent a little bit backwards, and his sword is just a little bit bent that way. So we've got a pot here with some hot, not too soapy water. So we're going to put him in there just for a minute, and that's going to make that stuff malleable. And then we're just going to bend it straight. So I take that sword, bend it nice and straight up and down. And then with this staff, we're going to straighten it out a little bit too. Push it forward a little bit. Pull the sword back a little bit. And again, our goal here isn't that we're trying to change everything about this mini. We're just straightening him out because we don't want to have bendy products. And the bone stuff is pretty malleable. Now, the new Bones Black that they have released, that Reaper Miniatures is doing these days, is even better at not getting bent in packaging, which is really, really nice. So they keep making improvements over there to their minis. And this guy comes as one solid piece. That's why we're doing him today. There's no gluing or assembly required. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this toothbrush and I'm scrubbing this guy down just a little bit. And the main reason I'm doing that is to get some of the releasing agent off of him. So you can see I've scrubbed him with soap, with just that soapy hot water. He's nice and scrubby. And the reason we do that is to get any of the releasing chemicals. When they make these, they go into a mold, and to get them out of that mold nice and clean, there's a release agent, almost like Pam dish soap, but it's not Pam. But you know how you would have, not dish soap, you know how you would have Pam like spray for your cookies, so your cookies don't stick to the tray. It's the same idea here. We're just getting the Pam off this guy and making sure that he's nice and smooth. And then, so we dunk him, and we're going to dry him off. We don't want to bend him too much because we don't want him to, we don't want to accidentally have, a mix-up again where he's all bendy. So he's out of his package. He's ready to go. I'm going to move some of these things around because we don't need them for the rest of the show. So, thanks, toothbrush. Don't need you anymore. We're going to pop this down here. Okay. So we're going to dry him off. I've just got basic paper towels here. Air dry him a little bit. And again, we don't want to bend his sword or his staff anymore unless we're trying to reposition it in the right way. So we're just drying him off as gently as possible before we start painting. We're not going to go too crazy with this guy. In the past, there were basically just two levels of like when you were painting what you were painting, and I don't really think that's true anymore. It used to be you either are painting, for competition of some kind, or you're just painting for the tabletop. I think now the real issue is that competitive painters have gotten so good that there's really another level in there of kind of, not pro painting per se, but just like detail painting or, high detail painting or something like that, where it's not just 5 colors so that he looks acceptable on the tabletop, but it's also not something that you're going to win a major award with or anything. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. I'm using a hobby holder, and once this isn't live, we'll have it in the show notes. We'll have where you can pick one of these up, or where I picked mine up at least. So, and just a little bit of putty on a bottle cap on top of there. And this is nice because I can spin him around while holding him the same way. So that's what we're going to be working on today. As far as the color scheme goes, we've got a couple different colors, but today we're going to start with our bases. We're not going to paint everything on this guy because that would take us a long time, but we're going to start. We've got Citadel Foundation, which is now called a base paint, and it's Mechite Red. We've got their base Abaddon Black. We're going to have just a little bit of Cadian Flesh Tone. And then I've also got some matte white. We're going to be doing some white on there. And we've got our Codex Gray, which is actually a layer paint now. I don't even know if it's called that anymore. It may not be. So that's that. We've also, some of the things that we'll be using, you can see the paint pot here. And we're also going to have, we've got a sponge over here that's just going to have some water on it. Drink up, little guy. So we'll have the sponge. That'll soak up some water, and we'll use that to clean off our brushes when we need to. Now, as we look at this miniature, as we get in close here, oh man, that camera is it's providing some shade. But one of the things that we're looking for is mold lines on him. So we're looking for where, if there were any mold lines, where we would need to scrape those off of. Places you want to look are flat areas, like on his hood here, or like on the sword where it's really prominent maybe. We just want to make sure that if there are any mold lines that we're taking care of those. Now, this is a pretty clean mini, but you can see some on the base down here. I don't even know if I can get it that tight. Let's see if it'll pick him up there. But right on his base, he's got a little bit of a crack right there. You go, right here. And so we're going to take some of that down. And to do that, I've got two files. I just use two files. I've got a flat file and a rounded file. You can get a pack. I think it even comes with a third file. You can get these for like 10 bucks, 12 bucks. And when we're working on this, I like to just be really nice and soft. I don't like to grind on them because I don't want the mold line to be something that I'm messing up the rest of the model. What I like about this flat rounded one is it gets really skinny at the tip, but it still has that hard edge to it, so I can get in pretty close with that. And you can see here on the edge there's a little bit of stuff to take off, and actually there's a little chunk there that I'm pointing at. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to take that off with one of my favorite sets of tools for when I'm working with stuff, and that is a pair of nail clippers. You can get nail clippers pretty much anywhere. These have been in my paint kit for a long time, so don't worry, wife, mom, anybody. I did not steal these from you or from the closet, although that doesn't mean that the people watching can't. So I'm just using these to just kind of clean this guy up a little bit. And if you have big chunks of plastic that you want to get rid of, that's always a thing. Sometimes these come with a file on them. And goodness, when I was in college and just starting to paint, that's how I filed down everything. I just used one set of those. I bought some at CVS, and that was it. That was the only thing I was using. So we have some cool base paint, some cool stuff that I've been wanting to try out, and so I may use some of that on this guy's base. Not worry about this hard edge too much here. The rest of him is looking pretty good, so we're going to get to painting. When you're painting a base layer, it's important that you don't go too heavy. Now, there was an old mantra that like everything had to be super watered down. You know, don't paint with anything that had anything on it. It was just all, you know, the real goal was just paint with really, really, really wet paint and do really thin layers and spend tens of hundreds of hours on your miniatures. I do not subscribe to that idea at all because I like to get stuff done. I do have to find my paintbrushes, which I totally should have done before I started the stream. But, you know, it's the first stream, so you got to bear with me a little bit here. If you have no paintbrushes, it is very hard to paint. That's just, you know, that's a pro tip that you might not get anywhere else except from a guy who lost his frickin' brushes. Oh, they're right there. They're right here. They're just hiding. They're just doing a hidey-hoo. Okay, so you can see some of the brushes I use here. There's not that many. I'm putting the tools away. So thank you, files. Don't need them anymore. Thank you, toothbrush. We don't need that anymore. So now we're back to just using our brushes. And we're going to use just a couple different ones today. This is the Army Painter small dry brush. So you see that one? That one's white. We have a really old, this was just from, this is called a spotter brush. I don't even know where it's from. Low Cornell or something like that. You can probably pick that up at an art store. So just a little deal. And then we're also going to be using today the Army Painter Insane Detail, Wargamer Insane Detail brush. So we'll see how insane we get. But we're going to start with our dry brush, get a little bit wet. And our first color we're going to be putting on the sky today is some of that Abaddon black. Okay, now we're not doing the whole model in this. Nope. I might not even be using this because it's all hard and stuff. Well, we're going to be using black paint, that's for sure. The first paint we're going to be using today is actually Army Painter's matte black paint. That'll be the first thing we're using. And I really do believe that anybody can paint. You don't need lots of fancy tools. And today we're going to be using this paper plate as our palette. So that'll be our first thing. And this one we're going to need a fair amount of this because we're doing his cloak in this black paint here. And we're using the small dry brush. And we're not doing a super thick layer here, but we're getting this all over here. And we're doing his cloak in this black. You want to get the edges real good. Try to get real tight in here. You don't need a whole lot of paint on your brush. You gotta be careful when you get to other things. You see he's got a pouch up here. I'm just taking nice, long, smooth strokes. We'll come back with a detail brush for the parts that we need to detail. On the back here, again, not a ton of paint on the brush. We're just getting that first coat on. We want it to be nice and even. Again, we didn't spray paint this guy or anything. He doesn't have any kind of special stuff on him. And we don't want to get rid of anything, but this is our base coat, so it can get deep down into the cracks. There doesn't have to be anything else on there. And sometimes when you're painting, it's important that you paint from different angles to make sure you don't miss anything, especially when you're basing up a model like this. So this guy we're basing up. Now when we go from the top here, you can see that we've got to be a little bit tighter, a little more careful with our strokes, so we don't get anything on these pieces of armor up top. Again, this is our first color, but it's a little tougher to paint over black, so you don't want to make tons of mistakes if you're doing a dark black. And I mean, there's no rules, right? Like, you can paint stuff any color you want. You can do it any way you want. Some things are going to look better or worse to the trained eye. Some things are going to look better or worse to the untrained eye. But if you're painting something for you, well, paint it in a way that makes you feel good. Paint it in a way that makes you feel like you've enjoyed the process. because if you're having a really bad time painting, you're probably not painting the right way. And I mean, if you're looking to go into a business, I'm probably not the person to watch paint. Now we've got to be a little bit tighter up here. So with that, we're gonna trade out this brush, our dry brush. So I get it wet in the water. I'm gonna wipe it on the sponge to get all the excess paint off. Next thing we're doing is we're picking up this Wargamer insane detail brush. I don't know if that's really true. It's not like such insane detail, but it does get us into the cracks a little bit better down here. Oh man, you can't even see him with the way I'm doing this. I'm gonna pop this camera down. You can see him really close up. I haven't done a ton of painting online before. I wonder if like getting like a GoPro and wearing that crap on my head would be like, give you guys the same angle that I have. I don't know if anybody does that. Let me know in the comments below if you know somebody who paints with a GoPro on their face. That seems extremely uncomfortable, but might be slightly more effective. And if it is, maybe that's what I'll do. So I'm getting in with this brush. I'm going underneath, like under the arms here. Just pushing the paint around. Don't need too much of it. Especially with black, it shows up really, really well, really thick. It's going to gray out, and that's okay. So there's going to be another color on top of this at the end of the day. So not a huge deal if you do. You know, if it's not perfectly thick where it needs to be. Okay, so we're going to go for his little loincloth here. I don't know, is that what you call that? What do you call that? I call it a loincloth, but it looks still, maybe it's part of his robes, his regal necromancy robes. I feel like necromancers, it's kind of a regal type of thing, right? It's a little weird, but I mean this guy, he's not part of a specific board game or anything. But you know, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, or I got way too much paint on there. You know, if you play some kind of game where you need a bad guy, this guy looks pretty bad. He's got like a mask on, and or maybe, you know, maybe you're playing the bad guy. You know. So again, just getting in here, not wanting to take too much time on him, but at the same time not wanting to rush things. And again, today we're just going to be basing this guy up. This is part 1 of this mini. And we'll be doing a couple more things later on. There'll be at least, you know, a couple episodes of layering him up, getting him to where we want to be. And then we'll do, you know, some finishing touches, some really cool ideas for his staff and his shield and stuff like that. So we'll definitely take some time on those, make them look real cool. And you know, with any miniature, you know, you got to kind of figure out where's the eye going to go on this one. Naturally, for me, my eye kind of goes to his face here, this over here, the staff that he's holding, and then the sword. And so we're going to try to make his face and torso look really cool, his sword look really awesome, and we're going to do some cool stuff with the staff over here. He's kind of standing on a pile of skulls, so that's like another thing where it's like, oh, that looks cool. We'll definitely do something with that. We want to make that look awesome. And, you know, making something scary. You know, big scary bad guy. Okay, so we're working up top here. Okay. Some people might say, wouldn't it have just been easier to, just put in the, spray paint this guy black? But you're going to see we're going to be working with some bright colors in some other areas here. And so that would not have been what we wanted to do. I'm going to move this camera again. I'm going to put it right there and see if that gives you guys a better angle to what we're doing. Okay. Getting this hood done here. Now he's actually wearing it. At first I thought he just had a skull, but he's actually wearing like some kind of cool skull mask. I'm not sure what color we're going to paint that. That's going to take some real sitting down and doing some really fancy detail work. Okay. So we're going to look around right now, see if there's anything we missed on the black here. There's a couple spots in here. Just going to tidy up real fast. We're going to do his boots in black, I think. We may go with another color eventually, but right now we're going to get some black on them. And you don't have to worry as much down here, near these bones, because we're going to do some basing down there later. If they get some black on them, that's okay. And the inside of the mouths of the bones are going to be black, but we actually have some, what's called some washes that we'll put on there. And we'll use those to make them look, to make them pop a little bit. And in reality, we'll use some washes to touch up some of this black if we have to, too. Just to make sure that all those little nooks and crannies have the right amount of paint in them. Okay. So looking at angles, just going from the bottom of the miniature now. Any of the spots along here, we could actually go back to our dry brush, which is a little wet. Keep the water off on my arm here. All right, so there we go. We've got the black done on this guy. we've been painting for 25 minutes, but we got some more that I want to do today. And so we're going to do that. We're going to do a white wash, which might seem a little bit crazy to people, but we're going to put some white down, especially down in deep. And then we're going to put some red in, and then that'll kind of be it for today. Maybe some flesh. There's our white paint. We don't need as much as that. We're just doing a couple sections white today. And they're not going to end white. There's, some people say, oh, don't paint with pure black, don't paint with pure white. But I think, man, it's 2019. We got stuff to do. We got places to be. So this white is going in a couple of key locations here as a base. The first one is going to be this sword. Okay. We're doing the whole sword white. So we're going to do other paint on top of it. Okay. Again, not a ton of paint on the brush. Just want to get the sword covered in white paint. Don't need to get rid of the details on it. I'm doing the whole thing in this white because we're going to go back over it with some cool stuff later and really make her pop. The other place we're doing some white is we're doing some white down here on this on the armor here in this area. Now, this white is pretty watery, so we gotta thin it out a little bit. By thin it out, I mean thicken it up a little bit. So I've got some down here. Mainly just working on this guy's rib cage here. And we want the white in the cracks for a specific look that we're going for on him. We're also going to do it on his face. So I'm picking up some of the white from my hand where I painted it earlier so that we can get it down in there. I'm going to go back to our insane detail brush. Hey, Anna Rose, I'm painting right now, baby. We can paint after this, yeah. So we're going to throw some paint in here. Just getting white paint on this guy's face. Because we've got some cool technical stuff that we can do on top of white paint that we can't do on top of other paints. And we're hoping that it's going to pop really, really well later. So all right. So there's the white there on the front part. All right, grab this paper towel. Get our brush nice and dry. Next thing that we're going to do is pop open some of this Citadel Mechite Red. It's the next color that we have for this guy. There's the red. And this is a paint pot, so it's a little bit different, so we don't put any paint down. The sponge, get all the white off of this brush. But we're going to be using the insane detail brush again for this red stuff. Now, I don't really like, my preference is not paint pots, but that's what I've got to work with today. So up here, this is the color that we're going to use for his staff. So lots of paint on the brush. This is going to be the main color of the staff. We're going to do the whole staff. I'm not even going to mess around. I could probably use a bigger brush, but there's some spots down below where it gets a little more technical. Rather than use one brush and then the other, we're just going to go with this brush for the red. Now we got a lot of paint on the Mini now, so we can just start spreading it around. Again, we want to paint all our angles. And this doesn't need to be a super thick layer of paint, but we also don't want it to be, you know, non-existent. Move this around a little bit closer here. Let's see what's going on. All right. So we've got all the gray on this painted, except for these little under spots here. So we're throwing some red on here, doing it as quick as we can, but we're just doing it the speed that makes sense for us. And right now, that speed's dictating us go just a little bit slower. Get this all in there.
What are you painting there, Dad?
This is a Necromancer Malek from Reaper Bones Miniatures. Yeah, I think he's mostly a bad guy. What do you think, Anna Rose?
Looks like a bad guy.
Looks like a bad guy to you? Well, there you have it. The 4-year-old has spoken. He's a bad guy. Okay, maybe don't fall on that. Alright. So we got most of our base colors done. We got one more thing to do. We're going to paint some gray on this guy's legs, because even though he's a humanoid, he does not have humanoid flesh. So we're painting this Codex Gray on his legs and his arms. We might throw a little more white on that sword, but we might not. We may just go with what we got there. We'll have to see. So, getting some gray on my brush, putting some down there. You might be wondering, like, but his legs are already gray. I hear ya. Just getting the base color on there, because we're going to be doing a lot of washing on this guy. And a wash is a paint that is really thin, just kind of soaks into the cracks. And washes don't do great on the Reaper miniatures because they are a little bit hydrophobic. So once you put your base layer down, they're fine. And if you wash them, they should really be fine. I'm doing just a little bit of painting off camera here so I can clean this guy up and speed up here.
So,
Yeah.
Do you know that the McDonald's chicken makes me throw up, so I'm not gonna have the McDonald's chicken.
Guys, did you know that McDonald's chicken makes my daughter throw up, so she's not going to have it? She just filled me in on that. That's actually a true statement. She threw up once after having it, which is a little hard for me as a dad because I really like McDonald's chicken nuggets. And it's just a little disappointing that that's like not something I'm going to be having as much of in my future. But she does like Wendy's chicken nuggets, which I think are fine. There's They don't. You ate them today, girl.
Oh. Well, maybe that was Taco Bell's.
Does Taco Bell make chicken nuggets in those?
I don't think they does.
I don't think so either. Okay, so we've got our white on the face mask and the armor plate here. We've got our gray on the skin, white on the sword, red on the staff, black on the cloak. And that pretty much finishes up the basing of this guy. And we still have to do the skulls down here and the ground. Those are going to be some boring browns. We're going to do his armor in metallic colors, so we'll focus on that later. And then we're going to do a whole nother video where we start highlighting, washing, and picking out the details on this guy. But there you go. There's our, in 36 minutes from in the package to a based miniature. Getting pretty close to tabletop ready here. And we'll be back again with a part 2 of this and probably a part 3. So part 2 will cover all the kind of highlighting and layering up. And part 3 will focus on a couple techniques to really make them pop. Thanks so much for watching Part of the Board Games. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye from me, Malek. Of course, as always, Anna Rose. Say bye, Anna Rose.
Bye. Dada, can we play together?